Lexi got engaged like before season of last year, like a month or two before season.
Oh, dude, it's her fiance's. It was her birthday. His birthday. That's so embarrassing. Oh my god. I wanted to bring like fever energy to the pod.
Sophie Cunningham, a Phoenix Mercury guard and WNBA Players Association representative, just said the word no one wants to hear. Lockout. Not as a possibility, but as the direction this is heading. And when a player rep is using that language in early February, it's a clear sign of how serious the situation has become. Free agency should be in full swing. Teams should be making moves. And the Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo expansion drafts should have happened a month ago, yet there's been zero progress on a new collective bargaining agreement as the calendar creeps toward March, prompting Cunningham to repeatedly call the situation dumb, which may honestly be the most diplomatic way to describe how mishandled this entire process has been.
The CBA negotiations, man, and this is really starting to be very, very painful to report on because as we know, we're supposed to be getting ready for none other than WNBA free agency. And as of right now, we're not getting ready for WNBA free agency. And as we prolong, now we're going into February with no deal being done. We're pretty much...
Here's where things stand. The WNBA and the Women's National Basketball Players Association have been negotiating since last year and have now hit a fundamental wall over revenue sharing, not a minor dispute. The players submitted their proposal around Christmas seeking 30% of gross revenue with a salary cap of roughly $10.5 million, while the league's most recent counter in early December offered about 70% of net revenue. A critical distinction, since gross revenue is total income before expenses and net revenue is what remains after costs are paid, making these two positions worlds apart, and with neither side aligned on the same framework and the league still not having responded to the Christmas proposal. It's now February and the standoff remains unresolved.
Everything is going to be altered. Don't forget, Team USA got their basketball game scheduled in September, so the season is already going to be coming to an end, just like it did with the Olympics. It is just going to be an ugly, ugly stretch to get these ladies ready for the 2026 season, and us Caitlin Clark fans should be hella mad because we've been...
March is the deadline that should alarm everyone, not an official one, but a very real practical cutoff. Because if there's no deal by then, the entire 2026 WNBA season is in serious jeopardy. Team USA has games scheduled for September as part of its World Cup preparation, meaning the WNBA season must end in time for those players to report. And you simply can't delay the start indefinitely without breaking the calendar, especially after seeing the chaos caused by last year's Olympic pause that left players exhausted and the playoff race compressed. So dragging negotiations into the spring risks forcing an unsustainable shortened season, or worse, a full cancellation, which would mean a league coming off its biggest year ever completely squandering its momentum.
Unrivaled?
That and like our CBA is so dumb right now that like it's heading towards the lockout. So
no progress.
No.
Like just nothing.
Honestly, nothing. We get like weekly emails from the PA side of things, and it's just so dumb.
Yeah.
Dumb. Okay, but I will be up there next week for some stuff, and so I think
I think that would be really fun. I'm excited to hang out. We need to do.
Sophie Cunningham noted that she and Sydney Carlson were the only Mercury players in Phoenix last week because everyone else was at Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 league that launched in January with 30 of the WNBA's biggest stars. And that detail matters because Unrivaled exists precisely because WNBA players needed another income stream, offering six-figure paychecks for just 8 weeks of play. Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier created the league in response to a salary structure that wasn't sufficient, which is why the Players Association asking for 30% of gross revenue isn't unreasonable, but rather an attempt to move toward a model closer to the NBA's 50% of basketball-related income. While the WNBA's offer of 70% of net revenue only sounds generous until you realize that in a league still investing heavily in infrastructure, net revenue is a fraction of gross, leaving players wanting guarantees based on total money coming in rather than whatever remains after expenses are set.
Cunningham's most recent WNBA CBA update is not what fans want to hear. You guys heard that. It is not what fans want to hear, but this is the reality of the damn situation we're dealing with the current WNBA. They said with every passing day, there becomes more and more urgency for the WNBA league office and its players association to come to terms on a new collective bargaining agreement. While the 2026.
Then there's Caitlin Clark, the player who single-handedly altered the WNBA's trajectory in 2024, delivering record television ratings, sold-out arenas, and a level of mainstream attention the league had never seen, with Nike set to release her signature shoe in the coming months. Yet she hasn't played a game since July, and fans have already waited 8 months to see her again. If a lockout happens, that wait could stretch into 2027, meaning the league's biggest star in terms of mainstream appeal would miss an entire season because the league and players can't agree on how to split revenue she helped generate, making the timing as bad as possible for a WNBA that should be building on last year's momentum rather than risking a shutdown.
About this, and if we ain't at CBA negotiation, the expansion draft for the Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo likely would have taken place a month ago, guys. The lottery draft would have been a month ago, and teams will be gearing up for WNBA free agency now, which typically begins at the start of February. Now, also,
the article breaking down Sophie Cunningham's comments highlighted a crucial point. The mere mention of a lockout is the last thing fans wanted to hear, and that's putting it mildly. But Sophie wasn't sugarcoating anything. She receives weekly emails from the Players Association and says nothing is happening, no progress at all, just a stalemate. And when a player representative goes on a podcast and repeatedly calls the entire negotiation dumb, it signals a deep level of frustration, especially since player reps typically stay diplomatic, offer cautious optimism, and avoid public pressure during sensitive talks, making it clear this wasn't a slip of the tongue, but intentional messaging meant to alert fans that the situation is serious.
Cute. I put him.
So that was Sophie Cunningham's segment on Show Me Some Podcast, man. Now, this article goes on to kind of break down everything you guys just heard there about Sophie Cunningham, pretty much saying that this whole situation is quite stupid and dumb. And it really is, man. There's a chance that a potential lockout will become an option if spring arrives with no CBA in place. Sophie Cunningham seems to believe this is likely the outcome, which she conveyed during her podcast, right? And that's what we just watched there. Now,
if a lockout happens, free agency stops, the expansion draft is postponed indefinitely, training camps never open, and the entire off-season calendar collapses. And unlike a strike, where players choose to walk out, a lockout means owners shut the doors even though players want to play and negotiate. We've seen this before in the NBA, which lost the first 2 months of a season, cost players paychecks, forced some overseas, and ended up damaging everyone involved. And that league had decades of financial stability to absorb the hit, whereas the WNBA does not, making a lockout especially dangerous for a league that is finally gaining momentum, earning respect, and attracting real investment from major sponsors and media partners, all of which could be severely undermined.
November. So I wonder, will WNBA players just say screw the league and play Project B just to get back on the basketball court if that is the case? Now, Caitlin Clark has confirmed that she will not be playing Project B. Now, I'm not saying that could change because it very much could change. Now, with that being said, get down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts about this one. Keep them bells on. I will be back with more content.
Beyond the immediate calendar chaos, a lockout raises serious questions about what players would do next, especially with alternative leagues like Unrivaled already proving there's a real market for elite women's basketball outside the WNBA and Project B looming later in the year. Because if the 2026 season is canceled and there's no summer basketball, more players may reconsider those options and realize they can earn comparable money playing 8 weeks of 3-on-3 instead of grinding through a 4-month season, fundamentally shifting the league's leverage at the exact moment it just signed a massive $2.2 billion, 11-year media rights deal with ESPN, Amazon, and NBC. Money that makes this negotiation different from every previous CBA fight, since the players know it's there and are asking for 30% of gross revenue rather than a net-based split that shrinks as league expenses grow, while the league argues it still needs cost certainty to invest in expansion, facilities, and travel, leaving both sides stuck on a philosophical divide over gross versus net that has already frozen free agency, delayed the expansion draft, and left teams and players in limbo, all while fans drawn in by Caitlin Clark, who hasn't played since July and could be sidelined until 2027, risk drifting away. Sponsors and networks start asking hard questions, and the league's hard-earned momentum hangs in the balance, making Sophie Cunningham's blunt assessment that the situation is dumb feel less like hyperbole and more like a warning that without real compromise soon, egos and principles could cost everyone a season they can't afford to lose.